Hey everyone, welcome back to another video, and this is for Anything But a Card Challenge Book, challenge number 45, and the theme for March is Green with Envy. And I did 2 postcards in an ATC for this project, and I made my own background using a piece of white thin, well, it's not super thin, but it's like, not heavy cardstock. And this was in my stash. Somebody gave it to me long time ago, and I think it's about 11 by 11, so don't quote me on that. And I'm not showing it because my camera will go blurry, and I don't want that to happen. So for the first layer, I took some napkins and I tore like the green parts on it and glued that down with some matte medium. You can see it right there behind her. Then after that dried, I took 3 colors of green craft paint, a light shade of green, a medium shade of green, and a darker shade of green. And 2 of the shades, I just used an old gift card to scrape the paint on there. And then the darker shade, where there was a white, I just took my finger and, painted it with my finger. So after that dried, I did some stenciling. I used the Delusions spray in fresh lime and cut grass, and I used it on this stencil. You can see it right here. And here you can see it. This way you can see it better. And I let that dry, and then I did some stamping. I used a Recollection stamp set. This one is the doily. I just used a big circle doily, and I used a green ink pad made by Vivid. It's very old and it's still juicy. So after I stamped that, then I stamped the circle, like that, open dots by Ditto, and I used another really old ink pad but still very juicy. That one is a Marley Matchable. It's a little square ink pad, and I had it for years. It still works. So after I stamped it, I took another stencil that Pablo sent me, and I used Tim Holtz's Distress paint in paled paint, and I used that on there, and it looked very nice. I did a good job with the stencil. Nothing leaked underneath or anything. So after that dried, I took the white Delusion spray and a plastic canvas, and I sprayed that on there because I thought it needed some white. Then when it was done, I let everything dry, and then I cut it into 2 4x6 postcard size cards and 6 ATC size cards. And then I had no idea what I wanted to do after that. I kept looking at them. Had no idea. Well, I sort of knew what I wanted to do with one of them, the ATC, because I knew I had some frog stamps from Viva Las Vegas Stamps. But I just didn't want to get up and find the one I wanted to use, which I did. So I went looking through my other stamps, and I'll start with this one. This postcard, I used a stamp set by Tiddly Inks. It's the Wicked Birthday stamp set. Very cute. I used her, and I stamped her on Chrome Coat, and it's by Viva Las Vegas Stamps. If you don't know what Chrome Coat is, I've explained it before when I was on the design team a few years ago. It's glossy on one side and matte on the other, and I used the glossy side, and it picks up, makes the colors just pop when you use any markers or inks or whatever. And I stamped her with black VersaFine ink pad, and I embossed her because stamping on the glossy paper with the VersaFine, it takes a long time for the VersaFine to dry. So I just speed up the process because I wanted to color her. I used the ultra high gloss clear embossing powder from Viva Las Vegas Stamps and embossed her, and then I colored her with Crayola markers in shades of green, well, the balloons in different shades of green, her cape, her top and skirt are in a gray, and her shoes are in a dark green and a gray for the sole. And did her socks, and I glued her on with Aleene's tacky, and I stamped the back of the bone with the leftover scrap. And before I glued that sentiment down, I stamped the heart and crossbone around her, and then I glued that down. And then it still needed a little something, so I found these this trim in my stash laying around my room, because my room's not put away or anything. So it's actually a double strand of the trim, so I made it singly, and put them over here and over here, and as you can see, they're both odd numbers. I did three rows, and I also did 5, 3, 5 on each end. So that's that one. And then this postcard, because I had to have some pink. Green is not my favorite color, as you guys know. So I stamped her, which is a Crafty Kimmy stamp set. It's Nancy Drew, and I just used her. I didn't use the sentiment. And I, stamped her using the same paper, same ink, same embossing powder, and I colored her with the same markers, only I gave her a pink dress. And I used the alpha letters that I got at Target in the dollar spot and spelled out where's the pink. And I did have to write the question mark on here with a black pen because there was no question mark in that alpha set. There was other punctuations, but not that one. So that's that one. And I popped her on foam tape. And then the last one, I did an ATC, and I used the Mona frog. They have a number of Mona Lisa type stamps with the different animals. I also have the Mona cow in my stash somewhere. So I stamped her on the chrome coat with the black VersaFine and embossed her with the ultra high gloss embossing powder, but I didn't color her with the markers. I used alcohol inks. Pardon my reach, I use Meadow, and I use Citrus, and I put it on the the pad, or the stamp thing, and I sprayed a little bit of alcohol on there and just tapped away to my liking. And I trimmed her just a bit. I didn't, can't fussy cut it, but I just trimmed the sides just a bit and glued her on there. And then with the scrap, I wrote, "It's not easy being green," because, I had to write that down. And I glued that down with the same Aleene's tacky, and I did outline everything with the black pen. And I did do the edges of all the postcards and ATCs with a darker shade of green, because I backed it all on a old cereal box, because it's, like I said, the paper is really thin, and so I wanted to give it some strength and some backing, so I used old cereal box. And that's it. So be sure to check my blog. Unfortunately, as soon as I started cutting, I made the first cut to cut the paper, to size and everything, I realized I should have taken a picture of before what the paper looked like before I cut it up, but I didn't do that. So you just have the end results of what I did. So be sure to check my blog to check those out, and check out Anything But a Card Challenge blog to see what the other designers are doing for the challenge. And thanks for watching.